This is Abby, and this video is on Mercury in Gemini. So if you have Mercury in Gemini, you have Mercury in its dignity, which is the place where Mercury feels the most comfortable. It's Mercury's home. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, but Gemini is where Mercury really shines because, wait, did I say that backwards? Gemini is where... This is my cat. Stop. Come here, Jimmy. Say hi. It's Timmy. Okay. So Mercury in Gemini it's a very fascinating placement because these people are the people who can learn things like easily, quickly. They can do 1,000 things at once. If you know a person with Mercury in Gemini, they can be on the phone, online, watching TV, doing homework or whatever work, and like painting their nails at the same time. My sister has this, and she used to do like 80 things at once, and she would get everything done. Like she'd be watching a show, like texting, IMing people, and doing her homework all at the same time. And I would be like, how do you do that? Like... Because when I get focused on something, I get focused. And she could just do all these tiny little things and have a conversation with me, and she would just get everything done. I would just be like, oh my god. And I work with someone who has the same thing, Mercury in Gemini. And she is a Gemini. And she does things lightning fast. Like, you cannot follow what she's doing on the computer, and she's picking up the phone at the same time, and she's IMing people at the same time, and she's bringing this up and that up and this up and that up on the computer, and she's so quick, and it's so impressive because I can't handle that much multitasking. So Mercury and Gemini are the multitaskers, and they're good at it, and the way they assimilate information is enviable because they can just take it in. They are very objective, and Mercury likes objectivity because Mercury is logic, it's of the mind, it's how you think. So far we've done Aries and Taurus. Aries is a subjective sign, so they're really more concerned with their own experience and how information relates to them. Taurus is concerned about how information applies to real life, logic, things of this physical realm, how it translates to stuff and material value. So Mercury is in our first air sign in Gemini. And that means that it's in its first sign of logic, and that it loves it there in air signs, because air signs are objective and they are all about theory. So Mercury here is very comfortable, like I said, learns quickly, can speak many languages. Gemini is a sign of like multiples, so it's represented by the twins, two things, so it can do two things at once, more than two things. It can learn two languages, so these are the children that if they're in a bilingual family, they'll still speak at an early age, and they say that people who learn two languages when they're children will take their time more to speak, but somebody with Mercury and Gemini would not have a problem with this. They would be perfectly comfortable with two languages going on. They can do work and socialize at the same time. They can, they love being social. Like, how they learn things is talking about them with the people around them. So like a Mercury and Gemini person wants to check information by talking to as many people around them as possible. So if they learn something, they want to share it with people. They don't stop talking. These are the talkers. They get in trouble in school because they're just blah, 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 blah. Like, they can't help it. They want to talk things out, and they want to socialize with the people right around them. They have curiosity about the world around them. They learn about everything new. Like, if you have a new system in your work or whatever, or at school, you're learning new concepts, these people will pick it up like that because they are actually curious about new things. They don't have resistance to new things. Gemini is a mutable sign, which means that it's go with the flow. So they're perfectly happy with changes of topic, changes of learning things. In fact, if you try and stick them in like a rote routine type of thing or structure them too much, that's when they get bored, because they seem to have ADD if they get too boxed in by things, because they're so fast. Like, you can't keep up with their pace of learning, really. So to make them go like at a slower pace so everyone else can learn at the same time, that's when you're going to get Mercury and Gemini who's just yapping away because they've already learned the concept, they're bored, like let's talk about it, let's put it to practice and move on. And honestly, Mercury in Gemini does not retain information especially well. It's a superficial sign, which means like it can learn things as much as it needs to ace the test, and then 50 years later it will not remember the class that it took. Like Taurus Mercury, like I said, is very deliberate. It learns things slow, but it never forgets. When we get to Cancer Mercury, very similar. Cancer Mercury learns things in a different type of way and won't forget it. But Mercury and Gemini, it's in one ear as long as it has to be, and then it's out the other. And they can be very gossipy because they love information about the world around them. That's gossip. So they don't necessarily need to be malicious, but they can be like the people that can kind of play jokes on others and like start rumors and kind of hurt people's feelings just because they are gossiping, which can be bad. It can hurt other people's feelings, but they don't see talk as having to do with feelings. It's intellectual for them. So these are the good and bad parts of having Mercury in Gemini, is that you can come across as being careless, superficial, not delving too deep into topics. If someone gets emotional with you, you're out of there. Like, you're like, okay, bye, I got a party to go to, I gotta go do 5 things at once, it's not time for this. You know, you don't really like to give your full attention to anything. You need distractions. It's how you learn and how you like just live. And when people start talking too much about like one topic, especially emotional things, it's not for you. So you can come across as not caring, but it's not that you don't care, it's just that you have to keep going fast and moving on and keeping yourself stimulated intellectually, and that means changing it up for you. If you have Mercury retrograde in Gemini, you are going to be a little bit slower. You might be a little bit less quick to talk as a child, as a regular Mercury in Gemini. But you still have the aptitude for learning things objectively, completely. You still have the intellectual ability to like get a 4.0, just like a regular Mercury and Gemini. Yeah, Geminis are like the best at school, like up until college, I would say, and when you need more philosophical ideas and stuff, because they can just do anything. They can ace anything. It's so annoying. But the Mercury retrograde is a little bit more introverted, I would say. Might not be as socially like a social butterfly as much. They just might have a bit more trouble talking to people like about things without sort of having to slow down and kind of consider what they've learned. It's just a little bit of a difficult. It's a difficult placement, I would say, for Mercury retrograde, because Mercury in Gemini wants to just keep learning so fast and socializing, and the retrograde is just a little bit more like they have to think about it more, like kind of like what I'm doing right now, and I don't have Mercury in Gemini, but it's kind of like hard for them to communicate as easily. But what, like, if they would be the great writers. Mercury Gemini retrograde would be the type of person who can like sit down for long periods of time, write out what they need. They'd have their own creative like structure. It would be like something completely made up by them, and they could come out with something beautiful because they would take the time to like do it, do it right, put their full self into it regardless of their sun sign. And because grammatically Mercury and Gemini is like great, they're just great at language. With that retrograde makes them have to like sit with it for a little bit. So you can be a brilliant writer if you have Mercury in retrograde in Gemini. Okay, that's it for Gemini Mercury. If you have any questions, please leave them. Thanks for watching.